Welcome back, respected viewers, to our magnificent and majestic historical journey today. Appearing before our eyes are the solid crimson walls and thousands of brilliant yellow glazed tile roofs. The Forbidden City stands as the supreme symbol of Chinese power across 5 centuries. Yet, hidden deep beneath that glorious facade lies a dark domain of wicked conspiracies. It is where a poisoned cup and cold white silk determine the tragic fate of countless living souls. Ancient records say Emperor Zhu Di created this magnificent and mighty fortress of power. In the year 1406, the great king decided to move his royal capital to Beijing. Millions of devoted commoners were mobilized for 14 years to build this grand citadel. Viewed from high above, the Forbidden City appears with an astonishingly perfect Feng-Shui layout. Exactly 9,999 majestic rooms lie safely within its walls. Surrounding this grand place is a 10-meter high red wall and an impenetrable water moat. Ming history notes that a colossal amount of Nanmu wood was brought from the distant southern lands. Millions of golden bricks took many long years of careful firing to achieve their flawless, perfect gloss. Why would a mighty emperor of supreme power want to lock himself inside those grand crimson walls? In truth, this isolating architecture is a brilliant trick to establish absolute worship. By isolating himself from the mortal world, the emperor became an untouchable divine god. No commoner could gaze upon the dragons. Face violators would meet an ultimate tragic end. This deep mystery amplified his supreme power before thousands of loyal court ministers. Although those magnificent towering walls could block mighty invading armies from distant lands, they were completely powerless against the seeds of destruction, silently growing deep from within. In fact, this deep isolation created the perfect setting for wicked manipulators. While the emperor stood at the peak of glory, he ignored the serving power growing so strong. Those with physical defects found ways to silently sneak into every crack of the empire. They were like phantom shadows slithering in the dark, slowly crushing the Ming dynasty's throat. Absolute power, when strictly isolated, becomes perfect prey for wicked ambitions. Entering the 16th century, the Ming eunuch system expanded to an astonishing scale. History records that at one point, the number of palace eunuchs reached 100,000 men. From the lowly status of servants, these altered men rose to firmly control the royal court. Exploiting the emperor's blind trust, they established an incredibly ruthless spy network. The eastern and western depots were born, sowing extreme terror among thousands of officials. In the pitch-black darkness, the cold and sharp swords of depot guards could vanish innocent souls. If living in an era where secret agents covered every single corner, who would you trust? The absolute peak of dictatorship was Wei Zhongxian, the wicked 9,000-year lord. From a mere pauper, he exploited Emperor Tianqi's ignorance to swiftly climb the grand ranks. Wearing a brilliant and majestic dark red python robe, Wei Zhongxian openly abused power. He banished loyal men, turning the royal palace into a tragic domain of innocent sorrow. Anyone who dared to protest would surely face a horrific and ultimate tragic destiny. the most merciless punishments were carried out inside the freezing and very dark secret chambers. Wei Zhongxian's severe abuse of power perfectly proves the entire bureaucratic system's collapse. As the emperor drowned in endless pleasure, ruling power quickly fell into the hands of villains. The Forbidden City now became an extremely ruthless and fierce political battlefield. The ultimate sacrifices of honest officials darkly stained the grand marble steps of the palace. And that vast corruption did not stop there. It also reached deep into the luxurious inner palace, a place where thousands of beautiful concubines lived a suffocating life, hidden from the bright sun. Imprisoned behind grand wooden gates, they became tragic tools for their noble families' ambitions. Each day inside the Forbidden Palace was an invisible survival battle, fought without swords. Yet that deadly silence was much more terrifying than any violently ruthless combat zone. Behind the inner palace lay tragic destinies, battered by deep loneliness and resentment. This fierce rivalry for royal favor turned gentle women into truly ruthless and cold sinners. The concubines smiled warmly while offering tea, but it was secretly filled with deadly poison. These dangerous poisons were subtly hidden inside beautiful cosmetics, rare spices, and fine silk. Their ultimate goal was to remove rivals' offspring to secure the powerful crown prince title. Royal court physicians constantly lived in deep fear, as one small mistake could doom their whole clan. They were strictly forced to turn a blind eye or actively aid the wicked schemes just to survive. As the dark night descended, sorrowful and mournful wails painfully echoed from the cold palace. That place held fallen women, slowly decaying in deep hunger and going completely insane. But the most terrifying tragedy was the dark burial custom restored by Emperor Zhu. When the emperor passed, dozens of concubines were forced to tragically depart this mortal world. Their highly desperate screams were forever buried beneath the cold royal mausoleum's thick stones. Suppose you were tragically trapped in this grand golden cage. How would you ever choose to survive? The empress holding supreme power could easily end a person's tragic life with a single glare. The strict rules were so harsh that merely dropping a jade cup could bring a brutal, ultimate end. The entire grand dynasty drowned in wicked schemes, fully draining the great nation's strength from its roots, while rulers enjoyed absolute luxury day and night upon the poor commoners' sweat and tears. Meanwhile, outside those walls, the whole world was strongly transforming with brilliant science achievements. But those deeply solid walls truly isolated the royal court from progressive humankind. They were too complacent with the past, blindly trusting the defensive power of their citadels. That profound delusion successfully pushed the entire empire toward the abyss of destruction. The truly ruthless wheel of history rolled forward, signaling the tragic end of the feudal regime. During the final years of the Qing dynasty, the glorious facade could no longer hide the deep rot. Stunning, Western mechanical clocks were simply considered fun, entertainment toys for their court. They had completely no idea that the West had already cast highly destructive iron cannons. And the inevitable finally happened. Foreign gunfire shattered the grand and solid gates. Royal guards with primitive spears were completely powerless against the new era's fierce firepower. Puyi, the final emperor, sat trembling in deep loneliness upon his ancestors' massive throne. The grand supreme power built by Zhu Di had now truly become a tragic and slowly fading picture. In 1924, General Feng-Shui marched in, forever ending the entire dynasty. Puyi, carrying an old suitcase, silently walked out of the grand gates with an air of complete despair. His frail figure cast a long shadow on the snow, finally closing 5 centuries of royal monarchy. The Grand Forbidden City is now a museum preserving memories of a royal era. The malicious and wicked conspiracies, the resentful cries have all vanished into faint dust. It leaves a deeply painful lesson about sheer arrogance and strictly isolating oneself. No fortress can ever protect grand royal power if it is deeply corrupted from the inside. The polished golden bricks still lie there, but those who proudly walked upon them are forgotten. Traces of the harsh eastern depot and the tragic cold palace are now merely just mossy ruins. The tragic collapse of a giant empire always truly stems from the growing seeds of inner rot. History completely proves that no absolute dictatorship can ever endure the test of time. The Grand Forbidden City fortress ultimately collapsed from total deep inner corruption. Which legendary mighty army flattened every great empire? Please leave a comment below. Do not forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for the next episode.